another month later in April. Lewis, I told you another guy had written to me. I was suspicious of him, but I had minor hopes. I hoped wrong. He seems to be dumber than you. He seems to understand nothing.
This guy's been having a one-way conversation with you now for legitimately months.
Well, here we are.
We're back. We made it.
Oh, finally. Episode 429.
I feel like it's been almost a week since our last episode.
I know. It's hard to wait that entire length of time, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I wish there were more lose days.
There should be. I mean, there should be a week full of them.
Well,
let's petition the government, Lou.
We have talked about trying to do the show more frequently.
Maybe you should weigh in, lunatics.
Yeah. Would you listen to something that was maybe a little bit more frequent and news-driven or topical?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not committing to an hourly podcast, Lou.
Right.
But I would do something, say, every other hour.
Yeah.
If the lunatics demanded it.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Who are we to deny them?
Yeah. I mean, I think their priorities should trump our own.
Yeah. I think that's what's going to happen.
Okay.
Sorry, kids.
Well, I want to continue our banter here, but I feel like the next 20 minutes or so are just going to be a factory of spaghetti.
Okay. So, lunatics, when you're done writing the comment about how often and how every other hour we should do a show, settle back, pour yourself a drink, and try and follow this.
Yep.
This is going to be complicated.
Mm-hmm. And with that, welcome to the Hot Lou Show.
Oh, shoot. I got that part.
I am your host, Lou Abramowski, or somewhat smartly known as Hot Lou.
I am following a trail of breadcrumbs, Mike Franklin.
Yeah. All right, buckle up, because, Mike, as you know, I've had kind of, I should say it's worn off in recent years, but kind of a lifelong obsession with Marilyn Vos Savant, who writes a column in Parade.
Right, which used to be a thing.
And like I said, in recent years, I'm not even sure if it's a thing anymore, because my interest has faded, as it has in all print media.
Yeah, so kids, back in the day, like in the aughts, before the aughts, there were these things called newspapers. Okay, and they would come to your house, or you'd go to the corner store or the Marquette, and you'd purchase them. and on the regular days that end in Y, they were pretty bland affairs. There was no color, but on Sunday, it was like an explosion of color and life and commercialism. And in stock in the middle, like kind of by the comics, which used to be a thing, was this fold-out magazine section called Parade.
And on May 26th, 1996. Marilyn Vos Savant, who at one point had the Guinness World Record for recording the very highest IQ,
right,
claimed that if a woman has exactly 2 children, at least one of whom is a boy, there is only a 1/3 chance that both of her children are boys. And that sounds very counterintuitive because, and let's not get into the politics of this statement, but there are only 2 sexes, right? So there's boys and there's girls, and there's a 50-50 chance that your child is going to be one or the other. So this is very counterintuitive that if a woman has exactly 2 children, at least one of whom is a boy, there's a 1/3 of a chance that both of the children are boys. And she went on to discuss it several other times. And it's really, this episode is not about discussing the solution to this or the math behind it.
Yeah, because I'm already working it out. I'm taking notes. I'm trying to sketch this out.
But suffice to say that the real answer is in how the problem is proposed, and less about necessarily the odds of having a child 50-50, right? So after all kinds of controversy and people writing in,
now again, this is a bygone era where this controversy played out over legitimately months.
Yeah, exactly.
Because your window to respond was a week.
Right.
And you had to physically write a letter, mail it to Marilyn Voss Savant, P.O. Box 7692, San Bernardino.
Right.
And okay, yeah.
So
you get the gist.
Yeah, and literally, I mean, like you're saying, it played out over months because this was in May 1996, and the last time she addressed it in her column was a year and a half later on October 19th, 1997. So literally 18 months later, she was still talking about it.
Just to set the stage. So she proposed this sort of like almost like a riddle, right?
No,
it was presented just as a statistic.
So I think so she would often have like these brain teasers, and yeah, it was presented as a riddle.
Yeah.
And then the answer comes up in a later column.
Yep.
And then a bunch of people disagreed with her claim that it was a 1/3 chance. And their disagreement, again, was a misinterpretation of a vaguely written statement. And in the July 27th, 1997 column, which was 15 months later, Marilyn accepted a challenge from a guy named Eldon Moritz of Arlington, Texas. Mm-hmm. And she said, "I will send $1,000 to your favorite charity if you can prove me wrong. The chances of both the woman and the man having 2 boys are equal, but rather than acknowledge the fault might be in the interpretation of the problem rather than her math, Marilyn invited readers to participate in an experiment that simply demonstrated that her math was correct. And what she did is she had a bunch of writers write in if they had one child that was a boy, and then the statistics backed her up. So with that, this challenge with Eldon was that he was supposed to donate $1,000 to her charity of the American Heart Association at the time. Well, 10 years later, when, I think it was still, like, this was 2007, and I think it was still early enough that some people, and I would say particularly older generations, still didn't realize that you could just, like, track down tons of information about people just by Googling them.
Uh-huh.
And one day I was just recalling that this has happened 10 years later to tell you how obsessed I was with this column.
Yeah. This is a view into the deep recesses of your brain.
Right. And I was working at a startup in town, and one day I just needed like a break, and I decided to write the program to prove Marilyn right. So I started writing some code, and sure enough, validated Marilyn's exact answer. And I Googled Eldon and found out that his email address was easy to find. So I wrote up this email. I'm not going to share the entire email here, but suffice to say, I sent him the program, showed him how it worked, explained why it did, and showed him how he's wrong and that he needed to donate to Marilyn's charity. And he just wrote back, "Marilyn is wrong. I believe your program, but you make the same mistake she did, blah, blah, blah." And he's just basically says garbage in, garbage out. And we go on to trade a handful of messages back and forth, but that's not what I want to talk about with the episode, because we traded messages and it's crazy because I sent the message to him at Sunday, November 11th, 2007, 1:01 p.m. And he got back to me 4 hours later, and which might be relevant as I tell this story. So we go back and forth. He's not budging, doesn't believe my program. Again, this is boiling down to just a misinterpretation of the way the problem was explained. So he then forwards me emails that he's been sending to Marilyn for 10 years.
Oh my gosh. So in a kind of a way, you've met your evil twin.
Yeah.
You've both been ruminating on this problem for now nigh on a decade.
On opposite ends of the argument.
More than a decade.
Yep.
And this was more than a decade ago. So we're now talking about solidly more than half your life.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Then 2 days later, like I said, he emails me a handful of these messages. We go back and forth a little bit, and still nothing's happening. And the next day, he sends me another long explanation trying to describe that she just phrased the question wrong, even though She was the one phrasing the question.
Right.
I didn't respond. A week later, he responds. He addresses an email. Abe, you gave up easily. Hopefully you learned something. Were you trying to protect a position, or were you trying to learn the correct answer? You know,
that's a little provocative.
A little provocative.
I mean, he should be in Minnesota. That's very passive aggressive.
Super passive aggressive. And as I stated before we started recording, I think 2007 was the height of my hubris. And my response, this probably won't surprise you, Mike, but my response was, I didn't give up. I lost interest in your desperation. Good luck with your futile cause, Eldon.
Oh, heavens.
And then I signed it, goodbye, Lou. And then he writes back, futile cause, you wrote me and then paid absolutely no attention to my argument. Who's futile? This question has developed into a study of people who get on the naive side of a counterintuitive question, then don't wish to admit it. When people write to me, such as you did, suggesting, of course, that I am not the only one reaching out to them.
Yeah, right.
I can almost predict the outcome. I can almost guess how many emails you will do. So he's calling me very predictable, right? I've heard all the arguments. People who wish to remain on the ignorant side make false statements. On this question, I don't have to make false statements. The truth is on my side. Why do you want to stay on the ignorant side? That's the futility. And then, again, to layer on my hubris here, I respond, my lacking interest is a reflection on the strength of your argument and the powers of your persuasion. Lou. So I can't read the entire message that he goes on to write, but he writes a novel back to me that's a good, 1,000 words in an email. So I'll skip that. But so I read, that was the last message I ever wrote to him. Okay. A month later, he writes, literally just out of the blue, he goes, Lou, Marilyn had an argument in a column. I disagreed with her answer and offered to bet $1,000 that she was wrong. I offered her an argument. She ignored it. You wrote to me and offered her argument. Why? Blah, 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 blah. And then he goes, why did you write? Did you even notice that I have an argument? Did you notice that I have arguments in my question? I make no false statements. That's a little harsh, but I'm serious. I'll teach you something if you'll open up your mind a little. The only reason I read that statement is because it's not harsh in the least compared to where this is going.
Oh, heavens. Okay. So this is a month later. There's been no contact. So
yeah,
you're just living rent-free in Eldon's head.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got space in there, signed the lease, and it keeps renewing because now a couple weeks later,
you did not respond to this.
No, so I have not responded.
You realize at this point this is a crazy person.
Yeah.
And you are, okay.
2 weeks later,
something, by the way, which Marilyn realized 10 years before you did, which goes to verify the genius thing.
Yeah. Oh, boy. So, Lewis, I told you that this is 2 weeks after that last message. I told you that about our problem, I could ask all the questions and answer all the questions. Lo and behold, I've been reading Lies My Teacher Told Me by Lowen. Last evening, I came across this quote. Once you have learned to ask questions relevant and appropriate and substantial questions, you have learned how to learn, and no one can keep you from learning whatever you want or need to know. Blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, just at the end of it goes, you're under 30, live in the Chicago area, probably have some education. You should develop some intellectual curiosity. Your pal anyway, Eldon. Very weird. Hey, I did not live in Chicago. I was under 30, barely. But I appreciated that he suggested I should develop some curiosity, given that I created a program to initiate these conversations. So fast forward 2 months. Now it's February of 2008. And he, this time wasn't just like an email out of the blue. He replied to my last response to him, which was on November 23rd. And he goes, my cause? ? I was here minding my own business and you wrote to me. Why did you write? Okay. No, still no response. A month later, well, the end of February, why did you write to me? You wrote to me about that little puzzle. Paid no attention to my logic. You learned nothing. Why did you write? You want to stay a dumbass all your life?
Oh my gosh.
And then he ends it, he.
Uh-huh. Nothing says I'm serious about this, then he.
A month later, March 30th, he writes, I got an email on this question this weekend. It's the first since you, so you can see I don't spend much time on it anymore.
Obviously.
I answered him and haven't received an answer yet, so I don't know much about him yet. He came with Marilyn's argument. I don't understand that. Blah, 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 blah. At least you had your own program, even though you had garbage in, garbage out. We left the ball in your court. We'll leave that ball in his. Maybe not. Maybe he'll understand my argument. He doesn't start out like he's going to, but maybe. Update on the new guy. Another month later in April. Lewis, I told you another guy had written to me. I was suspicious of him, but I had minor hopes. I hoped wrong. He seems to be dumber than you. He seems to understand nothing.
This guy's been having a one-way conversation with you now for legitimately months.
Yeah. Half a year.
Half a year.
You guys can't be that dumb. I don't know what you can get out of acting so dumb. So now the next one came on Saturday, April 5th. You know what? This one wasn't as interesting, but he told me to write a new program for it. Now another month later, Eldon writes, I told you the new guy seemed to be learning. All of a sudden he went back into dumb mode. What is it about you, 1/3ers, that you can't follow a simple argument? What is it you have against the truth? You got a little question wrong, and I intend to stay ignorant. And you intend to stay ignorant. I don't understand it. You're a programmer. Write a program to flip 2 coins, blah, 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 blah. Then flip 2, blah, 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 blah. Or just stay dumb and ignorant, Eldon.
He's consistent with the bit.
He absolutely is. And then at the end of April 2008, I don't even understand why you write to me. You don't seem to care about the truth. And remember, I have not written to him in 6 months. I give you a little true argument and you can cut and run. You are so stuck on your answer that you can't even think. Why can't you just admit error? I guess when you cut and run, that is admitting error. But why so hush about it? You make me think you're awful and dumb.
Oh my God.
So then I hadn't heard from him in 4 years. And then Saturday, December 20th, 2008, he just out of the blue he forwards me this email.
Give me the date again.
It's December 20th,
so
2008.
4 months, not 4 years.
No. Sorry. Yeah. You're right. I read the wrong. Yep, that's right. So no, it's been now 8 months since the previous one, and he just forwards me this like chain letter from a university, and then I didn't hear from him ever again.
I may understand why.
I think you do. Care to take a guess?
I found his obituary.
You did.
Sunday, February 1, 2009.
Yep. Yeah. So,
Eldon Leroy Moritz, 72, of Abilene, passed away on Thursday, January 29, 2009, after being lawyered by Hot Lou regarding a 12-year-old column from Marilyn Vos Savant.
So I hate to make light of someone's passing.
Yeah.
But you know what? You got to hand it to Eldon for going down fighting.
I mean, he actually sound like this obit is kind of interesting. He was born June 21, 1936 in Stamford. That must be Texas, Stamford, Texas. Raised in Stanford, graduated Stanford High School in 1954, was in all athletic programs, attended the University of Texas and played football for the Longhorns, lettering in 1955 and 56, went to the Army for 3 years and spent 13 months in Germany, returned to Texas after his time in the Army, returned to the university and lettered once again in 1961. They didn't have eligibility limits back then. Eldon was a humorist, master of ceremonies, and motivational speaker for many activities and events.
Wow.
For dumbasses.
For awful and dumb people.
Awful and dumb people. He was also a professional baseball umpire.
Wow.
But his love was flying.
That surprises me. I thought his love would be in statistical analysis.
That must have just been a hobby.
Well,
wow.
Yeah.
That did not go the way that I thought it would go.
Yeah. So, and, you know, I had recalled that I had also found his obituary. I didn't recall that it had been so recent after the most recent email that he had sent.
Yeah, like a month.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a little bit over a month. So this episode has been a dedication to Eldon Moritz and his dedication to his belief.
I'm surprised he didn't find a way to continue to argue with you after he had slipped the mortal coil. This seems like something that would have been well within his power, given the passion that he clearly had.
You know what?
For you awful and dumb people.
You've inspired me to reply to his last message.
Totally do. Yes.
Should I take my hubris to new heights?
Yeah. Eldon, you dumb dead guy.
See where it got you. Oh, maybe that's too cold. All right. Well, there's no real lesson here other than if you believe in something,
you go down swinging, boy.
Go down swinging. Yeah.
I'd like to think that, I don't know if I'd like to think. I am currently thinking that you participated in his demise, not actively. You like, there's no right. Like, you're not like a legal accomplice to murder or manslaughter.
Yep.
But you sent an email that clearly, evidently, took away minimum 25 years of his life.
First it was Eldon, then it was the Ultimate Warrior. Yeah. A story we'll share for another time. But for now, I hope you appreciated the story that is this episode dedication to Eldon Moritz. And like I said, maybe you need a little bit more Eldon in your life.
If you are in any way acquainted with the estate of Eldon Moritz,
new celebrity listener,
new celebrity listener, the estate of Eldon Moritz, get in touch with the show. Yeah. We'd like to continue this now 23-year-old debate brought on by Marilyn Vossavant.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for tuning in to the Eldon Dedication Show. I am your host, Louis Rumowski.
I am thoroughly confused, Mike Franklin.
We'll talk to you next Tuesday.